Hey there, YouTubers. Today I'm going to talk about a little problem I had with my Kahr Cw9 magazine, and actually the gun itself was the problem. However, I solved it with a little adjustment on the magazine. So let's take a look at what we have. The problem was, and by the way, let's go ahead and safety check here. Nothing in there. No magazine. All good to go. Okay. This Cw9, I just got it a couple of days ago, and actually took it out to the range and fired about 50 rounds or so, and had no problems with it, by the way. I heard a lot of people had issues with them in the break-in period and so on and so forth, so I was a little concerned, but I had no problems with it, so quite happy with it. Now, it came with a 7-round magazine, which worked just fine. Again, had no failures on there, and although 7 rounds is not a lot, so I'm definitely going to get a speed loader to finish it. It is a royal pain to load these, because as you put a bullet in, these metal lips here definitely catch your thumb a lot, and can give you problems. It's also a extremely tight spring. Or as they would say in Worcester, Massachusetts, where they make this gun, it's wicked hard. This thing is wicked tight. It's wicked hard and wicked strong. And I'm going to show you that when I take this one apart. Now this one, I believe I have the packaging for it here as well. Here it is. This was an aftermarket I bought off eBay, and it's an official. It's called the 920G, 8 rounds with a grip extension, and it's about $40 some at the Kahr website. I think I got it for 30 bucks online, so saved a little bit of money. It's an official Kahr one. The problem was when I put it into the gun and I pushed it all the way in, and it looked like it was in all the way. It didn't actually catch. Okay. It would look like it was in all the way, but it wouldn't catch the magazine catch on here. And so what would happen was I could load the first round in, fire it, and then the magazine would fall out. Not good. So what I did was I went back into the gun store where the range was and where I got this from, and they had 2 of these models sitting right next to the one I bought. And I took this magazine in and I said, let me try this mag in your other CW9s. And so they put it in the other CW9s, boom, and it locked beautifully in both of them. You put it in my CW9, would not lock. It just looked like it was just not quite getting far enough in, just a little bit, so that the spring tab would not engage in this slot on the magazine. So rather than call Kahr and say, what's the deal with this gun here, I tried a little MacGyver fix that got it to work. So first I'm going to take the gun apart and show you what I did, and then I'll take the magazine apart and show you how that comes apart, and also give you a little tip about putting the magazine back together again, because it is a wicked pissa to get the spring back in there without taking your eye out or knocking a light fixture or something like that up, because it'll fly off there. So, and it's a little tricky because there are 2 notches that must be lined up in order for the slider stop to come out and disassemble it. It's not just like locking it in place like you do with some of the other weapons like a Ruger or Glock. They're a little bit easier. This is kind of tricky. We have a little notch right there. You can sort of barely see that little notch on the slider. Likewise, there's another notch on the polymer frame right there under my finger. You can barely see it in this light. I'll try. Now these 2 notches need to line up in order for the slider stop to pop out, and then we can take the slider off. Once you get that done, it's actually pretty easy. So the simplest way that I found, or the best way I found, is first rack it. Okay, and that just gives a little less tension on the spring for some reason. Now we can pull this back to where those 2 notches line up, and while those are lined up, it's hard to do this with the camera, angle. While those two are not lined up, we can now push the slider stop from the back side, which is this pin right there that goes all the way through. So we're going to push it with all my might. And I got it started, which is fine. Now you just take some kind of blunt object, just pop it a little bit more. There we go. Because it's a little bit of a chore to get it out. Okay, pull it out. There's your slider stop. Now, once the slider stop is out, in order to get the slider off the frame, pull the trigger, and then it slides right off. You don't have to go back and forth, rack anything. You don't have to press any pins like you do on a Ruger, something like that. Just simply fire, pull the trigger, and it slides right off. That's easy once you get the slider stop out by lining it up with these cockamamie notches on here. Okay, so as we're looking inside here, the magazine spring catch is right there. It's that little latch that comes out right there. And as I push the magazine release, you'll see it move. And that little thing catches into this slot. Now this is the 7-rounder. When this goes in, it's locked in there. It's locked in there. However, the 8-rounder with the extension on the bottom is almost in there, just almost. And so what would happen is you could load a round, fire it, and then the magazine would sort of drop out like this. Now what I noticed on the 8-rounder, when I put the 7-rounder in that worked, and I was able to see that there's just about enough room to put in a slot-headed screwdriver right under here without damaging anything. I'm just trying to measure what the deal was. When I put the 8-rounder in, I could see that there was clearly a longer gap there, a higher gap, okay, which meant that the magazine wasn't going in far enough because the base was too thick, or more likely because the grip on my weapon was actually not made to tolerance it. It's actually a little longer than it is on the other models. So let's just take off a little plastic down here. Simple enough. However, taking these magazines apart is a bit of a chore. So here's what I recommend. First of all, take a small screwdriver or a nail or something like that and put it through. Because this magazine has holes on both sides, put this through. You may have to move the spring a little bit. There we go. Catch it through there. Okay? Now the reason I'm doing that is because when we take this base plate off and slide the bottom piece, this spring is going to just fly off. And it's going to shoot this little base plate with it. It's going to hit you in the eye. It's going to take out a light bulb above you. It's going to do something like that. It's just crazy how strong this spring is. So do yourself a favor, lock this in there so you're not going to lose the spring. Okay, now we have a little piece right here. When we push this down, and we're pushing the spring down, we can now slide this bottom piece off, and just like I said, there went the base plate, there went the guard. Somewhere in my room here, I'm going to have to stop the camera and go get them. However, good thing be known, I did keep the spring intact. And you can see how long this spring is. It's just absolutely crazy. And it is almost impossible to get back in there without really monkeying with it. So I saved the spring. I lost the other two pieces. They've flown off camera. I'm going to go take a look for them and then come right back. Okay, we're back, and yeah, I went and found these pieces. They flew across the room bounced off the wall about 8 feet away, and ricocheted off, and one went one way, and one went the other way. the base lock went one way and the base went other. Now this was fairly easy to find. It was sitting on top of things. This little baby dropped into a box of all kinds of other stuff. I had to pull everything out, and there it was laying in the bottom of the box. So you could imagine if you have a messy room or it's dark or whatever, you could lose this thing real easy, and then you're out of luck with the magazine. So we showed you the epic fail of how the spring flies out, what to be careful for. And what I did was, once I had it off, I just took some sandpaper and actually used I used a file for a little bit, a planer, a very small one, and I made a mark with a marker around it, so it was about the thickness of a Sharpie marker point, and then I just sanded it off and tried to do the best I could to, you know, make sure there wasn't any sharp edges and things, keep it even. And so I had to do it a couple times, brought it back, tried it again, still didn't work, did it a couple times, brought it back, still didn't work. Now I have it where I believe it's enough. I'm going to put the magazine back together, and this is about as hard as taking the magazine apart and losing things. So I still have my pin in here so that we're not going to lose the spring should everything fly off. Now what I recommend is I put the screwdriver through here pretty high up on the magazine, which allowed a lot more spring to fly off. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to move it. I'm going to try and put some of the spring in. Okay, I'm going to get about half of it in, and then I'm going to put the pin closer to the top so that I'm not working with quite as much pressure here. It's still quite a bit, but I think this is a little bit more manageable. So what we need to do is get the spring down, put the base lock on the correct way with this little tab pointing upward, and of course lined up properly with the rounded edges, and then we'll get the base on. We'll just slide it right on there. So I'm going to get this in there, and I'm trying to do the best I can for the camera, but I may just have to get in there and wrestle with it. I don't want to lose another one. Okay, so I've got this in. I'll put the base lock on. I'll try not to lose that. Try not to launch it again. Wow, let me tell you, this spring is strong. Okay, here we go, baby. Alright, so it's in there. Now we can take the base, just slide it on there. Once we get the notch on there, we're in pretty good shape. Alright, so now we just press down, slide it in until it snaps open, or snaps closed, I guess. Take my pin out, magazine's back together. Now again, I shaved off about, thickness of 2 fingernails. That's about all it took. And let's see if it works. It goes in. It's locked. Now I've got my second rounder. So I've heard this online many times about the Kahr, that they have problems with the magazines, and people have all kinds of solutions for it. Mine was fairly simple. Just had to take it apart, grind down a little bit, and as you can see, it not quite lined up perfectly. I might have got a little bit off the back end versus the front end, just a wee bit there, but I can live with that. It's not going to come off. That's the main thing. Alright, so let's put this back together. Take the mag out. Slide stop. I'm trying to get the correct name for these things. Slider. This is a little bit easier than taking it off. I'm just going to slide it back on. It clicks. Now again, we're going to have to line these 2 notches up to get the slider stop in all the way, but we can start it right here, get it in a little bit with our thumb on it. Just take it back until it goes in. Right where those things line up, the notches line up. Oh, there we go. It's in. And we're done. So that's how we take a Kahr Cw9 apart, to take the slider off, and dealt with the magazine's adjustment so that we could get this magazine to catch on it and now I have 2 mags, because 2 are better than 1. Hey, thanks for watching. If you have any other questions, put them in the comments. I'll do my best to answer them. And look for my other videos about the Kahr Cw9 and also my Ruger SR9 and any other videos I have. Thanks for watching.